right, hi you guys. All of us in the audience, global citizens, consume about 506 minutes of media every day. And this is television, radio, internet, magazines, newspapers, and more passive stuff like billboards and displays. And so I invite you to imagine a feast. And for 9 hours a day, we are feasting on this entertainment and information and constantly digesting and processing it and updating our ideas and beliefs about what is or isn't attractive to us or normal or palatable. And at this table, there's dishes called daily news. And the frequency with which we reach for those dishes and what we use to do that with, be it from a television fork or a social media spoon, is really interesting because it plays a role in normalization, which is the construction of ideas around certain habits and beliefs and ideologies being totally normal. And some of this normality happens by virtue of the frequency that we reach for the same dishes. So when news media repeatedly brings up certain shapes, bodies, ages, colors, this has a huge bearing on what we conceive of as normal in our day-to-day lives. For example, for the first 83 years of Vogue magazine, not a single black person was featured on the cover. And this standardized whiteness as a single idea of beauty for a very long time, a very standard normal idea of beauty for a very long time. Some of this is by virtue of language. So a study of the British press in May of 2006 found that 91% of articles related to Islam had made negative associations to the religion and presented Islam as a threat to Britain and the rest of the world. And this effectively normalizes suspicion, insecurity, and prejudice against Muslims. And then some of this normalization happens by virtue of sensation and saturation. So during the last US presidential election, Donald Trump repeatedly made racist and sexist comments, and he was rewarded by being the focus of a quarter of all evening news coverage across the 3 largest networks in the United States. And after he won the election, a lot of people made the argument that that the media had normalized this speech by streaming it for hours through people's television sets and by publishing tens of thousands of articles about him. And so the paradox is that even with more and more dishes at this table and more devices with which to access them, our habits around consuming this media has become narrower. So all of us really get most of our news on Facebook, and we talk about it on Facebook and we share it on Facebook. And this means that I can effectively sit at one end of the table every day eating the same dish over and over again for the rest of my life without getting up or changing seats. And then I can get all my news from sources that simply validate the ideas I already hold about the world without anybody challenging those ideas or challenging me to think critically. And so as a journalist, my task is most importantly to avoid eating the same food all the time, and that I put down my spoon and I pick up my fork or my chopsticks, and that I'm constantly engaged with other people at the table who have other experiences of what normal looks like. Because normalizing that habit of conceiving of what other people see as normal and what isn't normal to them and what can be normal for all of us can have hugely positive impacts. During the civil rights movement, wide-scale news coverage of the injustices that African Americans were facing was streamed into white living rooms where they could no longer turn away. Mainstream television shows like Modern Family and Transparent featuring same-sex couples, Vanity Fair, Time magazine featuring trans women on the covers. This helps us to conceive of a much broader cross-section of people as normal, typical, not deviant or unusual, but absolutely part of your everyday spread in humanity. So if we spend 9 hours eating at this table every day, we've got to consider what makes us choose one dish over the other. Why any of us would be okay fearing a third of the table, like those who fear Islam. That's literally a third of the world's population. Why any of us would be content eating from a single dish with a single spoon for the rest of our lives. So the next time you approach this media table, which will be very shortly given the amount of time that we spend consuming this stuff, ask yourself what you're afraid to try. And if you are, why? And find out where it comes from and why it's important to the people that insist on consuming it every day. Because that table is growing exponentially, and globally, more and more people are bringing dishes to the table, and more people are sitting down. And it can be extraordinary to share that experience of storytelling and information sharing, rather than a slate of news dishes soaking in fear and hate. And if we cannot expand our willingness to do this, to bring more compassion and openness and awareness to that table, to that new normal media table, our sense of normality will be eaten alive by it. But if we can do it right, if we can bring a sense of openness, if we can try new dishes and open our minds to other people's perspectives, a greater variety of perspectives, open our ears and our eyes and, of course, our mouths, we can take great pride in proving an old adage true, that we are what we eat. Thank you.